Hi everybody, Russ and my Hammers 11. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you're made aware of any time we put new content on. Today's guest, he's on Twitter a lot. He is on Twitter a lot. Fazzamania. He hasn't put his Twitter handle, but it's Fazzamania.
Yeah,
it's Paul Farrant. Hi Paul, how are you?
Yeah, hi Russ, very well, thank you.
How's things? How are you in this weird world we live in now? This weird Corona-esque world?
Yeah, it's strange. I had a bad dose of COVID, actually. So back in March, April, I had sort of 16 days battling away and then a 6-week recovery. So it's almost one of the reasons why I started watching your videos, because there's nothing else to do.
Nothing better to do.
Exactly. So,
and now we've come full circle, Paul, and now you're going to be on one of the videos. So
I know, this is really strange, strange. Having watched many of the videos. What am I, the 196th guest or something?
Very, very close. I have to calculate it, because I hopefully will have a very good guest on my 200th guest, but I've got to make sure I interview him at the right time. Otherwise, it's going to be completely out of sync. But no, it's gone a bit crazy, to be honest. For what was an idea just beginning of lockdown, really, it's gone a bit mental. But, yes, it is what it is. But at least.
I'll tell you, it's a really good set of videos. I've really enjoyed them, and I think it's a fantastic idea. And I think they've been great. And it's the word that keeps coming out the whole time is nostalgia.
Yeah. So
it's really nice to sort of get some nostalgic views from other fans as well, not just players, but the players is interesting, but fans as well.
Yeah.
And just listening to other people's sort of perspectives.
Yeah.
On West Ham, because obviously I have my own, but it comes from a certain place.
Yes.
And then obviously, but on Twitter, I've connected with obviously lots of fans as well, which is great to see some of them sort of talking about West Ham.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you imagine you could put more the face of the name a bit better, because it's otherwise people are just hid behind 140 characters. Then, isn't it? It's all bringing people together.
Yeah, well, I'm anonymous on Twitter only because it's just how it started out. Because I've got a full-time job, and I didn't want people sort of raking through the internet, looking at my name and look at me ranting about West Ham, and and then tracking me down essentially. But it's good to connect with people, and probably over the last 3 or 4 years, I have got active on Twitter and other social media just because the fans have kind of come out of the woodwork.
True, yeah.
So, I watched all the sort of podcasts. The West Ham Way was the first one I started watching. So that was Dave and X, and sort of following, X obviously had some good information on transfers, which worked very well. And more sort of latterly, sort of Gonzo and Gio on the Hammers Chat. So
yeah, no, it's good. It is. There's plenty to watch now, which is good, because it just seems that there's. I mean, obviously you've got X and Date West Ham Way. You got Corey now doing the YouTube channel now, which is quite good. You've got obviously the Hammers Chat guys. You've obviously got West Ham Fan TV. You've got Irons United. You've got 3 Hammers. You've got JP. So you've got a whole bunch, and more than I have to say more than just a podcast as well. Otherwise, Nigel Carden, Sean before he
that's true. I'll watch that as well. I listen to that as well.
That's Stop Hammer Time as well. They're all friends of the channel, but and
the USA guys.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, guys, if anyone out, but I don't think I have now. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of stuff. And I think particularly during lockdown, it was a lot of people turned to that because it was like regular content, wasn't it? Because like on telly, there's nothing, and so I mean, YouTube viewership has gone up like so much because of that, and but it's great, and as you said, nostalgia is what I do. So that's our channel. All those other guys, they talk about all the current stuff, and good luck to them. But I just do nostalgia because I can't get in trouble with that.
No, exactly. Well, nostalgia is a good thing because probably most of my best memories are West Ham from 30 or 40 years ago. Yeah. So I'm 52 next week, so that gives I saw my first match in 77. So, I was 9 years old. So we're talking 43, 44 years. But one thing that's come across on the channel, most people's best memories seem to be of a certain age group.
Yeah.
They seem to be sort of their teenage years, their early 20s when they really sort of got into West Ham. And they seem to be the sort of favourite times. You sort of see it through rose-tinted spectacles.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's because I remember someone mentioned that they do say, your favourite music's from that sort of late teens, early 20s. That's the type of music you like. And I think it's the same true with football, because it's that coming of age, isn't it? Where you could go to the pub and you could probably go on your own, go with your mates, go away games, all that type of stuff. And so naturally, your eyes are more widened to that sort of, and it's true for me. It's like I was 92, so sort of the early 2000s were sort of late 2000s, early 2000s were sort of my sort of
your era,
my rose tinted glasses era, and I've been very fortunate to interview obviously some players from that era as well. So it's like wow, for me, I got more excited interviewing Pete Butler than Macca, for example. Sorry, Macca, I know he watches, but do you know what I mean? Because it's like my era was Pete Butler and Trevor Sinclair's and Martin Allen's and people like
John
that.
Mongo,
Super John, and we've just and this one the day after your video is going up, Paul. There's a great ex-Hammer, my all-time number one ex-Hammer. It's not my all-time number one. No, I say it wrong. He's the only player I've had on the back of my shirt ever, and I interviewed him, so he'll be on tomorrow. So it'd be very good. But anyway, we can wait for that one. We're talking about you today, Paul. You took no, I made a choice. Marco Boogers exclusive. No. James Jones from We Are West Ham podcast. I knew there's another one I forgot. He's got a Marco Boogers shirt, but I'm pretty sure it's the only one that was made in circulation. No, you have to wait and see. But it's a good laugh. It's a right giggle. But anyway, so we'll talk about you today, Paul, not about the other guests and stuff. Talk about you and your West Ham journey. So obviously you said 77 was roughly sort of your first game.
Yes.
But when did you become a West Ham fan? What was your sort of origin story?
Yeah, well, I mean, my dad was born in the area, born and sort of bred in the area. So he lived in a road called Aragon Road. So it comes from Catherine of Aragon, of course, and Berlin is the Berlin grounds. There's a series of roads, if you know the area, Parr Road and the like. So literally lived 500-600 yards from the ground. So it's in his DNA. It was in my DNA as well. He used to go with his dad. His grandfather went, and beyond that. So in fact, if you track the family traits history, you could probably go right back sort of 100 years to the very beginnings. And all my family back before them were sort of boilermakers. So they were probably sort of worked in the docks and worked in the sort of shipping business, which is sort of the early roots of West Ham, really. Most of the chicken run were dockers in the 70s. So it was in my DNA. But I mean, as it happens, I was born in Plumstead. So I was kind of I'm the sort of, first generation, a generation that's popped out of the East End.
Yeah. So
I'm a sort of fake East Ender, really. Even though it's kind of runs in my blood. So it's always interesting listening to, again, some of the other guys who are sort of born and bred in the area. But obviously, it does run through my veins. And we could talk about it a bit, but obviously all my rituals in the early 70s were based around, going up to my nans who used to live in Aragon Road, and, we had a routine.
Yeah.
So, we used to, I live in Kent now, lived in Kent back then, but that was before the M25 was built. So we used to drive up at sort of 9 or 10 in the morning. And again, you have to, for younger fans, they won't kind of understand this, but back then you didn't have to be a season ticket holder. You could just say, today's the day we're going to go and watch West Ham. And we would jump in the car and drive up. And we'd go to my nan's, we'd have a bacon sandwich, you'd always have a cup of tea on the go. She'd always put 2 bollards outside of the road because the whole road is full of bollards. So you got your parking space. And then she would pop out, just at the point where we drove up. And we'd walk in. Obviously, the excitement was raging at that point because you could see the ground as we drove up. It was an enormous structure. And, then we would, sort of certain time back then, it used to be about 1:30. Every game was at 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon. So we had to leave at a certain time. Always had to leave about 1:20, 1:15, because if you had a child with you, you had to get a spot by the the bar.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't get a spot by the bar, you would just get pushed over by all the fans. Because back then it was all standing. So whenever we scored a goal, you'd move forward about 6 or 7 rows. You just go flying. So my dad would always try and get me the bar, and we'd stand behind that bar. I'd have a little box or a seat back then. It was like a little sort of child seat, and you'd stand on the seat, so I'd be the same height as all the fans around me. And then, it was just a case of it was standing back then as well, which was always interesting. So from 77 to 94, it was all standing. So for me, that's why that era was kind of special to me. And in fact, really post 94, the game kind of died a bit for me. Not completely. I still went to watch West Ham and sat in the seats and everything, but even to this day, you can't beat that period where you were standing with everybody else and sort of soaking up the vibes, the atmosphere, the smells, and everything associated with it. So it does run through my DNA. It's going to run through the family. My son's a West Ham fan. Most of the family are. But and in fact, my nan always used to. There's a family myth. It's I don't know how true it is because it's a myth, but she always claimed that she dated Bobby Moore's father, and she always said that if she'd have carried on that relationship, she'd have ended up having Bobby Moore as a son, which would have been great.
I love that. That's such a West Ham thing, isn't it? Because we live in the if we hadn't sold Lampard and Rio, we'd have won the Premier League and It's always if only he's a West Ham.
But she would have had Bobby Moore the plumber, not Bobby Moore the.
Exactly, yeah.
It's all fantastic. I said, no, the great thing about the fact you sort of broke up that relationship is we ended up with Bobby Moore.
Yeah, so, exactly. And who knows what would have happened, from 66 onwards, isn't it? So it's
But she used to sell cigarettes in the 30s just outside the ground. There's kind of a rich history, and even my dad's first game was in 46. I still go with my dad and my brother, by the way.
Wow.
So he's coming up 82. My brother sort of comes along with me as well. Comes along with me. They come to football. My dad, it was interesting when he did the Richard Digans video because he was talking about Ken Tucker's sweet shop. Now, I've heard the same story from my dad year after year after year. At the end of school, they'd go down to Ken Tucker's sweet shop, and he used to ask him whether he was playing on the Saturday. And that's what he used to do. He used to run a sweet shop in the week, play for West Ham on the Saturday.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like someone, I can't remember who I interviewed, and apologies because they'll mention it straight away. Someone I interviewed went to buy. It was their birthday, and they went to the Bobby Moore's sports shop across the road from the ground, and was sold his birthday tracksuit by Bobby Moore. It's just like nowadays, it's just mental. You wouldn't get, as I said, I don't know, Sebastian Haller in Sports Direct or It's just.
But even when I took my son to his first game, which was back at Upton Park, he's 18, 16 now, coming up 17. So he managed to see a bit of Upton Park football. We went to Ken's Caff just for a bite to eat, and I thought, crikey, the amount of history that's probably run through that place is incredible. But
crazy. But I remember when you mentioned about the bollards, I completely forgot about the bollards and wheelie bins, and they'd always, you'd go down around the back. By where the statue is now, but all the way down that long road there, and there was all the bollards up, and oh god, I just remember that. My granddad with his massive car would just like nudge them just so he can get in. So the poor bollards are probably about this far apart now. You can get a smart car in them now, but no. Oh god.
But what was interesting is after the match, you'd come out, and the whole place would be buzzing whether you'd won or not, and you'd come back, and along all the houses. Generally the women, sounds a bit sexist, but generally the women would stand outside the front waiting for the guys to come back in from the football.
Sure.
And you would see them all just, one by one jumping into their houses, and they'd all ask the result. You'd have to tell them the result 10 times, as you walk past. How do we get on? How do we get on?
Yeah,
how do so play? How do we score? So, because there's if you know the area again, Aragon Road, there's a cut through. I think it's Cabot Way. I think you go down Cabot Way, and then you cut through some flats, and then you sort of do a sort of little jig through the streets, and then obviously you end up with sort of sides of the North Bank, which is where I spent. That's where we used to stand in the North Bank. So we spent all our times just standing behind, the goal, probably 19 or 20 rows back, because we used to like to see the ball thumping in the net rather than sort of get the side view.
Yeah.
We used to look up at the guys in the, whatever that would be, the West Stand, I think, or the East Stand, either. The rich guys who had the seats and the plush, sort of facilities. They always used to turn up about 5 minutes before the game. Because back then, the entertainment on the pitch was unusual, because you used to have a marching band.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch West Ham when that happened?
No, but we recreated it, didn't we? We tried to recreate it a few times. So we did the famous Ipswich game. We put on the post horn gallop, and we got the guy and did all that. But we used to, not like sort of originally, but obviously we've tried to recreate it. And obviously when it comes to like Christmas and sort of Remembrance Sunday, we always try and get a band on, don't we? To sort of the British Legion or something like that to do it.
Yeah,
not the original marching bands for sure.
Yeah, but there used to be Upton Park. There used to be that little box, didn't there? Which I presume held the DJ in there, did it? And
it was downstairs, yeah. So where you had the police control room, and it was almost like a porter cabin on stilts. And then when we moved into the newsstand, that's why when I started working there, because obviously we couldn't. The announcer Jeremy couldn't get up and down the stairs, so that's why I was up there. But yeah, it used to be a little box, with the DJ and the police used to be in there as well.
Yeah, and then before the game, they'd always play the whistling song. What was that whistling song? Do you remember the name of that? I think I've got it here somewhere. Whistling Jack Smith. I was Kaiser Bill's Batman. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I'm going to have to Google it.
You're going to have to look it up. Yeah, just look it up. They always used to play that, and we used to whistle away. So because there was no entertainment for an hour and a half, you just stare at the pitch. Actually, I mean, in the 70s, the only entertainment really was you get a bit of there was a lot of hooliganism back then.
Yeah.
All the trouble was always in the South Bank. So, and used to count the arrests before the game, because it was always loads of police, big police presence at West Ham in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I remember counting them. To this day, I still remember the numbers. I remember getting to about 16, and that was a good day. And 3 or 4 if there was, because it was the South Bank was split obviously into away fans and home fans. And you could almost reach through the bars and get at the away supporters. And some people used to jump out and jump in and have a go.
I mean, I remember when I used to sit when I was with my grand and my brother. We used to sit in the centenary upper. I was front row and bang in the middle, and that was my entertainment. Was just literally looking over and looking at all the away fans and the chicken one just shouting at each other.
Yeah,
and just scream. And it's just so funny because it's just so much entertainment just by watching them. And didn't even notice the Hammerettes, and I was a 13-year-old boy at the time. So here we go.
But as the crowd used to fill up, we used to there used to be a peanut man as well. I don't know whether you've heard this, but
yeah.
Used to walk around with a big bag of peanuts, just shouting, peanuts, and if you wanted a bag, he would be 15 yards away, but you could never get through the crowd because it was absolutely bristling.
Yeah,
and he'd throw this bag of peanuts at you from 15 yards, and hit you smack on the nose. Normally, it was a good shot. So, I don't know whatever happened to that peanut man. I'd love to know, but someone out there will probably know who he is.
Yeah, someone will know who he is, and if he's probably not still around, bless him, I'd imagine. But it's a funny world, isn't it? When you talk about it then, and you look at it now, and peanuts, it's popcorn now. It was peanuts, now it's popcorn. There's not much chat. It's like it's just progression with time, isn't it? It's quite funny.
People think we never had things like that, but we did. We had peanuts. I mean. Okay,
exactly. We have peanuts. You have peanuts, also, and you exactly.
So the bottle at half time was a treat as well, and definitely if you got a meat pie, you were well up there. You were floating if you had a bovril and a meat pie.
Bloody hell! That's if you got to the queue, it was always like this horde of and go for a wee and stuff as well.
Yeah, it was just a mob basically. I mean, if you wanted to go to the toilet, it was it was impossible. So you used to spend, as we know, you used to see the trickles come down the steps.
Yeah, it's disgusting when you think of it. That particularly in this sort of hyper hygienic world we live in now, streams
Oh,
of piss going down the street is like,
the
oh
London
man.
Stadium is like a dental surgery compared to Upton Park.
Oh
So, I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
in the 70s, even the toilets at Upton Park was a gutter. I mean, it literally was a concrete gutter. It wasn't. It didn't
Yeah.
even have urinals.
Oh god.
So it
Yeah.
seems like a long time. It seems like I'm talking about a different world. But
Yeah, it's great. But even if I'm being funny, even 6 months ago, you speak about having 60,000 fans in the stadium.
yes,
That now it's like no, probably not for another until at least gone Christmas. So it's yeah, it's not a long time ago, but it's I mean as you said, like in the last 6 months, the world's completely changed as well. So it's when obviously when the obviously you're not there and you're watching it on telly and stuff in the the West Ham games and stuff. Do you and your family watch it with the crowd noise on or the crowd noise off?
I'm a crowd noise on,
Mm.
just because I think I've tuned my brain into believing
Yeah,
that the crowd are there. So in fact, if you watch the games at Old Trafford, they've got sort of the pictures on the seats are a crowd, aren't they?
yeah,
Sort of different shades of colours.
yeah. From
It looks like
afar,
there's
it
a
looks
crowd
like it.
there.
Yeah, I
But
think it was. I think it was
it's
La
not the same,
Liga.
though, is it? It's not the
No,
same.
it's not the same. It's not. I mean, I even now it's like I have to. Even when there, it's I could never hear the crowd anyway because it's like my box is like a soundproof box anyway.
Yeah.
So, but you could hear it would rumble. You'd hear rumble. So the floor would rumble. And so now it's so quiet that I have to put on our friends at Hammers Chat or Irons United or West Ham, the watch alongs, just
Yeah.
to have a bit of something going on in the background because otherwise it's just so quiet.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's
How long
awful.
have you
But
been doing that business now?
20 years. So
Have
so
you?
so yeah. So basically, when we moved, when that little box got taken down and what was well. I don't know what it ended up being called. The Alpari stand, the Rio stand, the Dr. Martin
Yeah.
stand, the West stand. When that sort of was developed, yeah, basically Jeremy Nicholas, who was the announcer, couldn't go up the stairs quick enough, and so to be pitch side, and so he was like, yeah, and I just emailed him for something else, and again, serendipitous sliding doors moment,
Yeah.
and yeah, I've just kept my nose clean and kept quiet, and I've been there for 20 years, so.
You do a very good job, Russ.
Yes, thank you. Pressing that button for bubbles.
Pressing that bubbles button is very impressive.
I think it's some asked me the other day. I think I must have pressed that song and played that song over 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Probably even more so now. But yeah, oh god,
I've
yeah,
got the original vinyl 7-inch single.
brilliant,
So,
love
because
it.
it was on sale at one point. I mean, it's in my loft somewhere. I'd have to dig
Funny.
it out, but
No,
yeah,
it's
it's been
great.
going a long time.
Yeah, and it's not. But I don't think it's necessarily about the crowds and going and stuff like that, and the crowd noise and stuff like that. But as you said, it's about it's 3 generations of your family go to West Ham, and it's about the routine. It's about going to the same place, standing up, going to the same cafe or going to the same pub, and
Yes.
I think that's what people are missing at the moment. It's that sort
Yeah,
of
it is the rituals. I
yeah,
mean, we went to the playoff final against Blackpool,
yeah,
and yeah, it was interesting. It was the first time my son had been to, a big match, a final of some kind. Because obviously, if you'd have told me back in 1980 we're never going to win another thing again for 40
yeah,
years, I'd have been, you could knock me over with a feather. We
yeah.
won the FA Cup twice in 6 years, League Cup finals, and sort of a race for the title. But those Wembley finals were great, and yeah, I got that sort of photo of 3 generations,
Mm.
and actually, I had a friend of mine who's I say a friend, he's a Millwall fan, so I keep him at arm's length. But he said to me, "I've seen that photo on your sideboard," and he said it's absolutely fantastic. And he said his dad had terminal cancer.
Oh,
And I think Millwall were in a playoff final or something, and it was going to be his last game. And he said, I want that photo." And so I managed to get him the tickets because I'm a Wembley season ticket holder as well. And so I got him the tickets, and he said it was fantastic. He's now got that photo of his father, him, and his son on his sideboard, exactly the same. And he says, a magic moment. He died 2 months later. And he says a magic moment, and it really was fantastic to see. So yeah,
and that's what it's all
it's a
about, isn't it?
generational
Really.
thing.
It is. It's about the family. It's about said you and your son and your old man and your brother, and it's and even if it's people who haven't got family in that sort of group, that it's the friends they make there, and as you said, you're season ticket holders and the people in front and behind you, and who
Yeah,
you probably would pass in the street without realizing.
yeah,
But on a Saturday at 3 o'clock, or Sunday at 7 o'clock, or at silly times, there you recognise them, and sort of Bob with his bovril, and Bill
yeah,
with his sausage roll, and that's what I
yeah.
think people miss. It's
Well, even my daughter had a bit of a phase of coming to matches, which was nice. And then she had a friend that came along as well. And last year, my dad couldn't make it, and my brother couldn't make it for whatever reason. So I had a spare ticket. It was the Man U game, and he popped in the door, and I said, "I've got a ticket going for tomorrow. Do you fancy coming along?" And he said, "Yeah, okay." And well, what a game to start with!
Yeah.
So I think there was a day. I think we won that. Was it? Philippe Anderson got the flick, didn't he?
Yeah.
But last season or the season before, I lose track now. I think it's probably last
I can't
season.
remember. Yeah, thing
And
is,
then
I'm
Cresswell
rubbish.
got the free kick, didn't he? I think it was 2-0 we beat them.
Yeah, I'm rubbish when it comes to remembering what season's what. It's just a blur.
Yeah.
I remember the '90s seasons, but
Yes.
not as individual. I remember it's
The
groups.
block.
I remember '99 to about 2001. Yeah, that was fun. And then I remember
Yeah.
sort of the Allardyce years, and then I don't necessarily remember what season goes into what. Although football shirts, I look at by the shirt itself. So that was. That was the Di Canio shirt. I remember him scoring that, and that's
Yeah, you
that's
remember
how I
certain people wearing certain shirts. There's certain
yeah,
players.
definitely. For some reason, I have Jack Collison and Alessandro Diamanti in that horrible checkerboard SBO bet one we had for a while. For some reason that's always in my mind. It's really weird, but
I was never a shirt buyer. I mean, I had shirts as a kid, but as an adult, I've never really bought the shirts from every season. I've just not done that. I'm not too sure it was the done thing for a while. It was
no. I mean, for
recent phenomena.
It's a stock birthday present / and a stock Father's Day present.
Yeah.
So it's like it's an easy win every year. So the wife knows, it's the West Ham shirt, the home shirt, and even the third shirt maybe. Who knows if if I've been a good boy that year or whatever. But it's one of those things that I just and then I throw them in the back of my closet, and next season. The other day I got them all out and I was like, oh my God, I've got to start wearing these again. And I can't get into half of them because I swear the shirt, the shirts were different these days. Paul, I've just got to get the door. I'm really, really sorry. I think 2 seconds. Sorry, I've got to get the door.
Okay.
We're back. We'll cut that out.
Got your delivery.
Yeah. What is it with ever since we've been on lockdown, we've just decided, everyone decided to buy things, isn't it? And it's like Amazon.
Yeah.
I personally know the Amazon driver now because it's like he comes almost every day now. It's ridiculous. And we seem to have a lot of chairs. My wife has a fascination of buying new tables and chairs. I don't understand it personally. I don't understand it, but hey ho. If it's not that, it's enough. We've had our whole house redone. Like all the bottom, all the floors have been redone, and everything's been repainted. And oh God, it's a nightmare. But yes, and then we still got to do work and things like that as well, Paul.
That's true. You've got a job in between.
Fit it all in as well. It's ridiculous. And then with the deluge of West Ham games we've had as well. September was busy. We had a lot of West Ham games in September with all the friendlies and stuff as well. But and then sort of like we've had a famine and feast, or feast and famine. We had all these home games, and then we have nothing until Man City. In terms of home games, not obviously we've got to play our friends at 3 Point Lane after
Yeah.
we get back from the thing, which is good. And and obviously with Wolves, the Wolves game and the Leicester game, and it's always West Ham, innit? We always seem to get into a bit of a vein of form, and either the season finishes or it's an international break.
Yes. Yeah.
It's typical West Ham.
Yeah, we could do without the international break really, because I thought we were doing okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we react when we come back out again. But we're quite good at coming out of lockdowns and
Yes.
and breaks, so we should.
But it's always that first game back. So like after restart, that Wolves game was awful, and then we started getting a bit better. And then the beginning of this season, the Newcastle game was awful, and then we started getting better. So Christ knows what's going to happen, because obviously it's Tottenham being our game back, I think. So
it is.
So hopefully we'll get the boys to be up for that. But
absolutely.
maybe another clean sheet would be nice. I wonder
well,
the last time.
It's unusual to see so many clean sheets. I've never.
It really is.
Oh, the one. I mean, I say the one. One of the 1,000 criticisms I have of West Ham.
Yeah.
Certainly over the last 4 or 5 years, is just our inability to keep a clean sheet. I mean, every game, you have to score 3 to win it.
Yeah.
So even in the Wolves game, I thought, 4-0 with a couple of minutes to go.
You still feel like you still intend to. It's ridiculous. But what I do like about this team and this sort of the current regime is there's always a goal in us. You know what I mean? I remember sort of sort of when we had like Mike Newell up front and people like that, and we didn't like scoring for toffee. This team always seems to looks like it's got a goal in it, which is lovely to think. Even if they go one down, we know Souček could make a late run into the box, or Antonio could bully a defender.
I mean, even if you look at someone like Mark Noble, who's obviously great servant to the club and sort of moving towards legendary status at West Ham. He's not really scored many goals, has he, as a midfielder? I mean, a lot of pens, but can't remember too many outfield goals that he's got.
No.
Well, in his early days, he sort of knocked in a few, but
I mean, he's on. Was it? Technically, he's our top Premier League goal scorer.
Yes,
49.
Which is embarrassing.
Because he played 500 odd games. It's like a little bit. But, although Antonio's like fourth now, I think.
Antonio should do it. Yeah, well, if you go back over the top 10 goal scorers in the Premier League, I mean, they're embarrassing numbers, really.
Yes.
I mean, Andy Carroll was up there.
Andy Carroll was up there. I remember we did it for one of the game shows. We did like Family Fortunes, and it was top 10 goal scorers, Premier League goal scorers for West Ham, and Andy Carroll was in there. Freddie Canute was in there. And as Trevor Sinclair and people it was really funny. It was really funny.
Yeah.
Oh, tricky Trev, God bless him. But it's hopefully I'd hope Antonio would probably surpass that this season. The way he's going. As long as he don't get injury. Yes, thing about I'm always worried about Antonio. He's like literally one injury away from being out for 6 months, isn't he? He's just so fragile. For someone so like bulky, so fragile.
But I think he's changed his game a bit, because he used to make those kind of lung-busting, waste of time runs. True. Where he wanted to be seen to be working hard, so he'd run down the wing and chase lost causes. But I think the last season or so, he's not really doing that. He's pacing himself quite well. So now he holds the ball up. There was that great goal against Chelsea, Yarmolenko. Ball went into Fornals, went to Antonio. He held it up. Normally he'd sort of done a spin and then tried to sort of spin off the defender.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He seems to be, or maybe because just the position he's playing at the moment, he can't do those lung busters all the time. He has to sort of pick and choose as and when he does it, because otherwise it'll be blowing. And to be honest, I remember I think it was the Brentford game or the Bournemouth game in the pre-season, he was blowing after about 60 minutes. And I was thinking, this isn't looking good. But it's because he was pre-season, obviously, but he was overdoing it. Very reminiscent of when we signed Carlos Tevez originally. He was all over the bloody pitch. He was useless. And then Curbs went, stay up there and just run when the ball gets to you.
Yes.
And it worked. And it's a similar thing. He's picking and choosing those runs now. And I mean, not being funny, he's bullied. I think he's scored the most goals since the Premier League restarted. Something ridiculous like that. Absolutely.
He's top Premier, one of 5 or 6 top Premier League scorers. But
mental.
Yeah, he's a sort of typical West Ham player. Really tries hard, leaves everything on the pitch.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
And I think he's a beast, isn't he? I wouldn't want to go up against him as a central defender. He really does bully defenders.
He does. But, I mean, that Leicester game, Johnny Evans, who's like a good, good defender. Johnny Evans is, he made him look silly. And I mean, the only person who's bullied him was Traore at Wolves when he pushed him over, and I was like, wow, fair play. You know what I mean? It's like
Antonio bulked up a couple of years ago, didn't he? When he had that injury, and when he came back, as you say, he was blowing after 10 minutes. He didn't seem to last 15 or 20 minutes in a game, but once he got going again, because he missed a lot of football, he's completely changed. But I mean, he's fantastic now. He's first on the team sheet.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's good. It's great to watch because he just gives everything.
Yeah, and it's there's no lost causes. He'll keep, because even if it's like 10 yards in front of him, he's quick enough to beat most defenders.
He is.
So
he's deceptively fast, actually.
Very. And now he's got the bit between his teeth. He's sort of.
I don't know how fast he can run the 100 meters in, but I suspect it's sub 11.
Up there, he'll be up there definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway, talking of team sheets, nicely, and a nice segue. Let's go on and talk about your Hammers 11, Paul. So,
okay.
As I said, the only criteria is that you have to be alive to have seen them play. Now, no disrespect, Paul, but you are an experienced fan, so you have a nice spread of players. Congratulations. Well done. You can play whatever formation you want. You can pick any players as long as you've been alive to see them play. They don't have to be the best players, be your favourite, whatever. It's up to you, Paul, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I've got a theme running through.
Nice.
It's a very simple theme. It's not, as I say, when you're the 195th man on the, you've heard it all and seen it all. But I've just gone for the nostalgia, basically. I've gone for those players I saw in the earlier days who kind of meant something to me or did something special or that I look forward to watching. Yeah. So generally speaking, I've missed out on the last even 20, 25 years. Not that I've not been watching West Ham during that time, but the magic in the 30s is different to when you're in your teens, as I explained. So when I look back over the team, and I was a lucky man, really, because there was a bit of a golden age between 76 and 95. We had long servants in the club. They still hold lots of records. Yeah, it was a golden period. So, but I've gone for a sort of traditional 4-4-2.
Nice. Who's going to be in goal for this nostalgic 11 then, Paul?
It's got to be Phil Parkes for me. So if you go back to my early days, Merv the Swerve was in goal, as he was known. Mervyn Day, great keeper for sort of the first 6 to 12 months. Made some great saves, young, really up and coming keeper. And then he started just sort of hanging around off his line. And there was a game, I was trying to look it up on YouTube and I found it. It's a game against Everton and he gets lobbed from about 45 yards. And standing in the North Bank, we always used to think he was susceptible to this ball where someone literally could just throw it over the top of him. And they did. And after that, I think he lost confidence. And every time he used to go towards the edge of the penalty area, he used to get jeered by the North Bank. And I think he got lobbed again about 4 or 5 games later, and that was it. So Parkes turned up, 565,000, record goal, record amounts. I was looking up some facts. I think he holds the record because he's played more than 400 games for 2 clubs. He's the only pro to have ever done that.
Wow.
It's because he used to play for QPR, of course, to West Ham. So I believe that to be true. Wow. So someone can sort of check that out. But
Kent Hammers, Kent Irons will be on there. He'll check it out for you.
Yeah, what he used to do was he used to catch the ball. Now you may say, isn't that what keepers do? Merv didn't. He used to punch and parry and flap. But Parkes used to catch it amongst a melee of about 5 players.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. We know he's a fantastic keeper. Solid.
Solid.
But we've been lucky with keepers, haven't we, over the years?
We have been. Yeah, I think we really, really have been. And it's been, apart from, as we said before, apart from probably like a 6-month period last season, we've done all right for goalkeepers. We've done all right, Mr. Roberto. Yes. And obviously, Parkes, he celebrated his 70th during lockdown, didn't he? So, so fair play.
Again, I just can't believe a player I used to watch is now in his 70s.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy. It doesn't. that time has flown in no time at all.
No, yeah. And he grew back his mullet just for his just for
Did
his
he?
birthdays. Yeah. Marie told me that's what he did, but bless him. But good old Parksy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When everything's a bit sorted, we're gonna go and I've been promised to do it, and then Hammer's 11 at his bar
Oh,
in
okay.
his house. So
Right. That sounds good.
yeah.
I've got I don't know whether I can show you this, but I've got a bit of a memento. This is the.
Cool.
Whoa.
That's it. There we go.
See that?
Yeah.
That was my first ever game.
Oh wow.
So that's Bristol. I kept the programme for my first ever game, and that's
brilliant.
Bristol City, and that shows you the kind of team we had. But can you see that? Is that?
No, it's a bit fuzzy. I can see Mervyn Day, but only because it's a bit fuzzy.
Yeah, it's too fuzzy, so the camera's not that great. But so yeah, Mervyn Day was in goal. Do you remember Anton Otulikowski?
No.
He's now a coach, I think. Somewhere.
Wow.
But those are the days where Alan Kirbishley was in the side.
Yeah.
Mervyn Day, obviously, Kirbishley came together as a coaching team, but they were in the side back then. So.
They did. They certainly did. Bless them. Right, so we'll put Parksy in. Let's go left back then.
Paul? So left back, I've gone for someone slightly more modern, but it's Julian Dix.
Yeah.
What I used to love about Julian Dix is that he never used to warm up as I've heard since. You could never understand why. He used to just sort of stand around and sort of make out he's just sort of kicking the ball. But after about 10 minutes, you knew he was going to put somebody into the chicken run. And in his early part of his career, those are the days where you could do that. So the right winger would come down. You think he looks a bit tricky, and then Dixie would literally put him into the chicken run. Yeah. Literally put him into the first 3 rows, and you think, well, that's over. That's over for him. He's not coming down there again, and he never did. So there was always that sense of excitement for the first 10 minutes of watching Julian Dix. Aside from all the other things he used to do, he was a great player. He used to score goals from all angles. Penalties were unbelievable. But it was just that moment where you used to think, right, he's really going to sort of take this player out. I used to get sort of quite excited about that. But you can't do it nowadays.
No, you can't.
A red card.
Exactly. Or VAR would pick it up afterwards, wouldn't they? But and also what Julian, obviously watching a lot of like Robert Banks, he put all the season reviews on YouTube and stuff, and they get taken down. He puts them back up again. He scored a lot of headers in corners. He'd score a lot of corners, and never really thought of him as a for some reason, I had this sort of like fuzzy memory of him being the one who hangs back outside the box. But no, he was the one getting a lot of headers in, and makes perfect sense. But yeah, Julian, what a man! And obviously, it was, and he shares the same birthday as Phil Parkes.
Does he? Okay.
So there you go. He was 50. I think he was the same age as you. He was 52. I think he was this year.
Yeah, it's a shame he did his knee in, didn't he? But I mean, his knee must be in bits. Must be in about 1,000 bits, I would imagine. But
and he became a dad as well.
Yes,
again.
On Twitter, yeah. Those are great photos.
Beautiful, aren't they? Yeah, because that's exactly what you need, isn't it? When you're just about to, spearhead West Brom's Premier League survival is a newborn baby.
Yeah.
Good old Jules. Doesn't do it easy, bless him. Right, okay, we'll put Jules in. Let's go right back then, Paul. Let's go to the other side.
It can only be Tonka, Ray Stewart. Yep. Again, I've got, I don't know how clear this is, but
I can see him. I can see a picture of him, yeah.
That's the vision I have of Ray Stewart.
Yeah.
It's sort of flying. This is the programme for 79, 80.
Yeah.
So that first programme, by the way, was 10 pence. Obviously, a good right back, but penalty taking. I mean, must be one of the greatest penalty takers of all time, isn't he?
He must
81 out of 86. I was looking up as well. He missed one penalty at home. One.
Wow.
And of the other 5 that he missed away, he scored 2 of them on rebounds. But I mean, how many other? I mean, Noble's a good penalty taker. He hasn't taken 86.
I mean, because they did something the other day, and it was Noble was the third in the modern day
in the Premier League. Yeah, I'm talking about all time.
No, but I think they did like a European thing, and Mark Noble was like the 3rd or 4th best penalty taker in European football. He was beating Ronaldo, he was beating Messi. It was mental. But Ray Stewart, if they did it, he would have been up the top, surely.
Yeah, I've got to. I don't know where it is actually, but again, I've got another. got a program here somewhere. Yeah, it's oh, there it is. Yeah, it's that one there. That's the Ipswich Town game of '86, which is probably one of my greatest memories of West Ham ever.
Really?
That was we were going for the title. You probably heard this story before. Going for the title. I think about the third game from the end of the season. We were winning everything in sight. There must have been 40,000 packed into Upton Park that night. It was absolutely bristling. We're playing Ipswich Town, who are a good side, but I think they were about fourth or fifth from bottom, so we thought it'd be an easy win. And then I've got a feeling it was Alvin Martin made a mistake for the first goal, and they went 1-0 up. And then we just absolutely battered them for about half an hour.
Yeah.
I think Alan Dickens got an absolute beauty right outside the area to make it 1-1. And about 10 minutes from the end, Ray Stewart got the penalty. Very dodgy penalty, I think, from Mark Ward, who probably took a bit of a dive, but fell over. And as I said, we were standing right behind the goal, and it felt like he absolutely thumped that into the net. You could almost hear the stands falling over behind. The crowd went. If you ever look it up on YouTube, it's an absolute riot.
Definitely.
It's one of the best nights I've ever had. And at the end, we actually all ran onto the pitch, which never happened actually at West Ham, because we thought we were going to go on and win the league. That's how we all felt at the time. And then I think we went up to Everton and lost 3-0. I think we were shattered from that night. And we blew the next game, lost 3-0, and it was all over. It was a massive anticlimax. But so I remember driving, my dad driving past the bowling pub that night, and everyone was standing on the tables and dancing, and it was an absolute fantastic
crazy.
So,
Craziness.
There's
something about Ipswich, isn't it? We always end up playing Ipswich in the Championship playoffs and stuff like that in modern day, in the modern era, so to speak. And it's always a cracking atmosphere there. Everyone talks about obviously those Ipswich playoff games in terms of atmosphere and stuff. And it's something about Ipswich. There's something about Ipswich.
It's a little trip down the A12, isn't it?
It's easy to get to, and
it's like a derby, really.
It is almost, isn't it, for a lot of people, particularly, people who live on the M11, type thing as well, sort of the Essex area. It's even closer, isn't it? But bless them. Right, okay, we'll put Mr. Stewart in. Again, hopefully we'll have him on the channel soon when everything's sorted. He doesn't do Zoom, he told me, bless him. I don't do Zoom. So I was like, all right, Tonks, no worries, man.
Lovely. He was only non-English player, wasn't he, to play in the 3 finals as well?
Yes.
So again, that's incredible.
It is. I mean, and that's why these guys have got to be cherished. You know what I mean? Because not that many of them. Obviously, the 80s and stuff, the 80 team and stuff, and it's great because all them lot still meet up and they still chat to each other on the phone and text, and it's such a nice team spirit they still have, which is beautiful. Right, okay, put Tonks in. Let's go centre half. So who's your first centre half, Paul?
Centre half, Billy Bonds. I mean, in the late 70s, he played as a centre half. I know he started out his career as a midfielder, so that's how a lot of the even more experienced fans than me remember him. But I remember him as a centre half. Started out with a guy called Tommy Taylor when I first started watching. But Billy Bonds, almost 800 appearances. Again, I've got these are my programs I've got from the earlier days.
Brilliant.
So that was what was that? That was Birmingham City, 77. I love this one. I don't know if this character's still around, but it's not that clear.
Yeah, I can see
that poor kid looks absolutely frightened. I can see why. Billy Bonds was a frightening character, but he was always Trevor Brooking's henchman, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Trevor Brooking never used to make tackles, and people always used to try and lay one on Trevor Brooking. And if they ever did, again, as a standing in the North Bank, used to think Bonds going to have a go now. He's not going to let that go. And I remember one particular game against Newcastle where he was having a go with Peter With. Peter With, massive sort of striker, very hard, and they absolutely went sort of 10 bails for the whole game. It was a very, very tough game, and it was one of those games where I think they ended up having a massive fight. And but you could never get sent off in the 70s. You had to basically, you had to be an axeman to get sent off. You could do anything. So I don't think I ever saw us sending off. But I think on this one occasion, both Peter With and Billy Bonds thought they were going to get sent off because they were basically just windmilling each other.
Yeah.
And Billy Bonds went right over to Peter With, grabbed him by the arm and started doing Strictly Come Dancing and dancing off. it's a brilliant. I think it's on YouTube as well. It's a brilliant bit of footage. But that summed up Billy Bonds. You know, he's just a great character, hard as nails, but fair, and you know, just gave everything for the shirt. You know, and I saw some good years. He was 77 to.
He did.
I don't know when he gave up. 88. So, well, he started in '67. So, I saw him when he was already 10 years into his career.
Yeah.
I still saw another, sort of 15 odd years out of him.
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. And then obviously, then he came back and managed as well. So it's just, And obviously the whole, stand being named after him and stuff last season, and
that was fantastic. Yeah, I saw him probably a couple of years ago. I mean, I'd forgotten how tall he is. He's about 6'2", 6'3".
Well, we know how he's 6'2". His eyes are blue.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, and he's still a rake as well. He must keep himself fit.
He looks so fit. I mean, even when I've interviewed players who were being managed by him, and he was still beating them at Hainault, cross country pre-seasons and stuff. And if your manager who's 50 odd is still, whoever he was, still beating you, it's like, he was just fit as a fiddle. Still looks fit as a fiddle, doesn't he?
But I saw him at a bash, and he was talking about the, does he go back to watch West Ham? He said he doesn't really, because he's got his grandchildren and everything like that. But he had sort of similar views to me. He said once all those kind of dockers went from the chicken run, it all changed, and it was never really the same going back. It was a different sort of band of fans. But going back and having the stand named after him, I think he realised there were the old guys are still out there. My dad's still there, and he'd seen him from the beginning. So I think sort of might change his opinion a bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he's a family. I mean, even that last game at the bowling, he famously turned around and went home because of all the trouble, and didn't tell anyone. Because he didn't have a mobile phone, and it was only his daughter or something texted us to say he wasn't coming, and we're like, what? Yeah. Okay, Billy Bond. Okay, we got a spare taxi. Because they were coming out of the taxis, weren't they? Oh god, bless him. But no, Billy Bonds, lovely bloke. Right, okay, who's Bonzo going to partner in the middle?
Alvin Martin. So almost 600 games. Again, 78 to 96, just right in my era. Took over from probably Tommy Taylor, who's a bit sluggish on his feet. Alvin Martin was just a great ball player. But I remember that Ipswich game particularly, where he was up against Terry Butcher and who's the other big defender that Ipswich used to have? I can't remember.
Ward? Was it John Ward?
Yeah, there was. There's a Russell Osman. They were a big guy, really good in the air. But the thing about Alvin Martin, you miss it nowadays. You see it on corners. He never used to miss a corner. The ball used to smash against his head, and it used to be like a clearance. He used to go to the centre circle. Absolutely fantastic. So great on the floor, fantastic in the air, and even in his older days. And I don't know what age he retired at. Mid-30s, early. I don't know.
Must be late 30s, I reckon. Yeah.
He was still just giving it everything. I don't think I ever saw a bad game from him.
No. Yeah, and obviously when Billy did his stand, Alvin did the PA, didn't he? So still lives around these parts, and not from around here, but he became an adopted Cockney and still lives in the area, and it's lovely. And as you said, there's not many players. I mean, you got 2 double testimonials there in the centre back positions. It's not too shabby.
No. That's the thing. I missed out Frank Lampard Senior as left back. I mean, he played 600 odd games. So, it was an era where players hung around for a long time.
It's true. I mean, Tony Gowrie said that every year he was there was bar one was a testimonial year.
Yeah.
Of course it was right, but it was a common thing, wasn't it? Having a testimonial. Now it's just very, very, very rare. Martin Ober is the exception to the rule, I think. Yeah. Right, let's go into midfield then, Paul. Let's go left midfield.
Left midfield, probably one of the greatest players I've seen, Alan Devonshire.
Yeah.
So again, saw him from his early days. Played from 76 to 90, over 360 games. Didn't score many goals, actually. He got about 29, 30 goals. Felt like he scored more.
Yeah.
The thing about Alan Devonshire is he was one of those players where the crowd would have a sharp intake of breath whenever he got the ball.
Yeah.
You'd literally gasp. I hate to put them in the same breath, but Payet was a bit like that.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
The crowd used to literally gasp and think something's going to happen, and it always did with Devo. But he had such great balance, poise, and he was always looking to create something. He would never get this ridiculous sort of sideways and backwards. He would always go at the defender. And he used to play this lovely ball into the box. He'd always put the ball into the box on the floor to the striker. Yeah. And it was always dangerous because you knew once that ball was in the box, it could be a pen or something had to happen. But he'd then chase after his own pass. Yeah. So the ball would be held up and then he would, then the ball would be played to him. But just a fantastic, skillful player. I mean, there was a time, not so much in the early, it took a time to get going, but he had an absolute golden period of about 3 years where he thought he could do anything. We probably won the FA Cup during that time, and you should just think he could take on the whole team.
Yeah.
He and Trevor Brooking used to work as a pair. Trevor Brooking always used to look for him and would always find him on the pitch. He was just an incredible player. And unluckily, he had, I think, a ligament injury and could have gone on to probably play for England many times. And got him really in his prime.
Yeah.
He was never quite the same player after that. He was
doesn't
a
happen
good
a lot,
player,
does it?
but never quite the same. So.
No, you're right. And it doesn't happen that even in modern day, apart from Mr. Payet, is probably the only time he's in maybe in my lifetime that we've got a player we get him at the right time when they hit their prime. We always seem to be the bookends. We'll get Teddy like 2 or 3 seasons if we're lucky, or Stuart Pearce or Nigel Winterburn, or we'll go and get Joe Cole or Ngakia or something at the beginning of their career. Never that sort of prime moment. And
no.
Yeah,
Devo, £5,000. I mean, he's got to be the greatest. Greatest purchase of all time.
Although interesting enough, when we interviewed him, he earned more when he was at the factory than he did when he was playing football. That's him. Crazy nowadays when you think about it. But Devo put Dev in. And actually, I think when we interviewed Macca and Cotti, they both said exactly the same thing, that Devo's advice would be, I'd always have 3 men on me, but I'll flick it around. She said, I'll flick it along on the floor and you latch onto it. And he said that was his spiel, what he said to all of them, apparently. But
he used to float along the floor. In my eyes, he used to float along the floor. He used to eat up ground. Actually, when Felipe Anderson turned up, I used to think he had sort of some of the traits of Alan Devonshire. Again, I hesitate to mention them in the same breath because you're talking.
I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
Chalk and cheese. When I first saw Anderson, I thought that's the closest I've seen to kind of a Devo type player.
Yeah.
Never turned out that way.
It's like, but there's some great play. I mean, I'm obviously not West Ham related, but I remember when Henri was in his prime, and he'd come down to Upton Park, and he would look like he was skating over the grass. And I think it's a certain player that's at their level that it looks like they're doing that. As you said, like Devo was doing that, but he wasn't doing it on a nice pitch. He was doing it on absolute sandbank, of a pitch as well. So but I know
rolled mud. It was rolled mud in the 70s. Perfectly flat, but mud.
Yeah, that's what Macca said. He's like, go and watch. We talk about the football and how the game's changing. Go and watch us turn over Chelsea 4-0 and look at the state of that Stamford pitch. And I was like, okay, so I went and did it.
Well, Devo got, I think, a great goal that game.
He did,
25, 30 yarder, fantastic.
Good man. Right. Okay, I'll put Devo on the left. Who's going to go the other wing then? Who's going to go on the right wing for you?
I've gone for it's tricky because you obviously have to leave out many great players, but I've put Mark Ward.
Yeah.
So Mark Ward he's just one of those players in that '86 season who just lit the sort of touch paper, and he was I used to think he was really the heartbeat of the team in the '86 season. Because he used to bomb down that wing and take on 3 or 4 players. But he was such a tackler as well, just such an aggressive tackler. I used to see him coming, towards you and think, crikey, how do you stop this man? He's unstoppable. And then he would lose the ball every now, very rarely, but when he did, and then he'd start hassling the defender. You think, my God, he never gives it up.
Yeah.
Incredible
terrier.
player. So
terrier,
important that season. So he was superb. 170 odd games, but for that '86 season, he was just unbelievable. Really, probably set that season alight. Aside from the others, Alan Dickens and Devo and what have you. But Yeah, great, just a great runner. There's another similar player, Stuart Slater.
Yeah,
who was skillful. Again, used to come down that channel. I could have put Trevor Sinclair in there. I absolutely love, possibly Paolo, some on the wing somewhere. But Mark Ward for what I felt at the time. Always felt with him in the team we were, and also he was a good away day player.
Yeah.
So he was. The team back in '86 would win away matches. Throughout West Ham's history, we haven't won many of those.
No.
So Wardy was a terrier.
Wardy, good old Wardy. Right, let's go into the centre then, centre midfield. So who's your first central midfielder then, Paul?
Yeah, I've gone for Sir Trev. Absolute, again, fantastic player. I used to see this sort of mess on the football field of players, and then Trevor Brooking used to get the ball. And when I say get the ball, he never used to take a first touch. He had this way, and again, look it up on YouTube, he had this way of sort of swaying his body. He'd let it run past him. Every player knew he was going to do it, but you just never knew he was going to do it every time. It was just incredible. And then he would be running onto the ball because he'd have a lot of pace.
Yeah.
And you'd see this melee of players, and you'd probably see, I don't know, David Cross running across the box. And suddenly Trevor would sort of play this ball right down the middle and cut out about 6 players. And you'd think, that's why he's in the England side. He was just amazing. I mean, he was probably our best player at that time. Devo was exciting, but Trevor Brooking was probably our best player at that moment. And incredible player. I met him about 2 or 3 years ago for the first time, and I had my 1980 FA Cup final programme in absolute pristine condition. I kept it flat over the years in the loft. It was like the day I bought it.
Yeah.
I gave it to him. I said, Trevor, you've got to sign it. He said, this is immaculate. I can't ruin it. I said, you're Trevor Brooking. You scored the winner. I said, I want you to sign it. And he signed it. And he signed it beautifully. He didn't just sort of scribble over it, to Dear Paul from, Trevor Brooking. And people always say, don't meet your heroes. I can tell you now, Trevor Brooking is worth meeting.
Everyone says what a gentleman he is, isn't he?
He is an absolute gent. There's just no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll always claim that, Eintracht Frankfurt was his greatest game, I think, which I missed by about a year.
Yeah.
But I saw him play many just good games of football. But
that's all right. So Trevor's in. Who's Trev going to partner in that middle?
That was a tricky one. Loads of different players, but I've gone for a bit of a left fielder, which is Jeff Pike.
Oh, Jeff Pike.
Jeff Pike.
Good old Jeff.
Just because again, he meant so much to us at that time.
Yeah.
He played from 74 to 87, so I saw him again in his pomp. Over, I think, 380 odd appearances. Wow. Scored 32 goals. Scored more goals than Devo. But more than that, again, I'll show you this. Norwich City. One of my early programmes. That was a game. That was my third game at West Ham. So Bristol City, Birmingham, I think, and then Norwich. It was one of those games as a kid where I don't really remember too much about the first 2 games. I remember Billy Jennings scoring at Bristol City. But on that third game, it was 0-0 with about 10 minutes to go. And the ball went to the edge of the box, and Jeff Pike thumped it in. I remember thinking, "Wow, this is West Ham. This is a team I can now get behind." And what a goal! I think I saw it on YouTube years later, and all he did was stroke it into the corner. but as a kid, I could barely kick it 5 yards. So pump it 18 yards. I used to think that was incredible. But the thing about Jeff Pike is, whenever he scored a goal, he was so elated. He was always so excited about scoring. He had about 29 different celebrations.
Yeah.
I used to run halfway up the pitch when he scored. He was just, he was such a workhorse.
It's a bit like Pablo Fornals now. They did a little thing, a montage of Fornals.
Yeah. Fornals is today's Jeff Pike. He's
there we go.
You don't think he's setting the world alight, but actually behind the scenes, he's working away and scoring goals and setting stuff up. I used to love Jeff Pike.
He scored that great goal, didn't he? Him and Wardy, where the Man United goal, where they mishit it, and we have had them both on the channel. And they both claimed, and they said, "Oh yeah," on the interview we said that it was meant to be a goal,
like an 18-yard header. Well, Pike got another one. I think it was against Wolves, where he hit the bar, and the keeper's sort of fell on the floor, went up in the air, and the ball span back, and it hit the 6-yard box and then span back into the goal. And it was, but he used to get lots of really tricky goals. He used to be good going around the keeper. You don't see that so much, going around the keeper nowadays.
No, they don't, do they?
He used to be really good at that. Just flick it past the keeper and then tuck it in.
Yeah.
So it's great fan of Jeff Pike. So,
good shout. All right, put Pike in. Let's go up front then, Paul. Who's your first striker?
Yeah, again, some of the younger fans won't necessarily have heard of him, but David Cross.
The original Psycho.
Friend
of the channel.
So this is where are we? Look at that.
Very nice. Wow, look at Crossy there.
Crossy, look at those legs.
Oh, good old friend of the channel, David. He's a lovely. Yes, I love
David Cross. So again, 77 to 82, 180 odd games, scored 78 goals. He scored 99 goals in all competitions. Did he?
Because I got that wrong. I got that stat, and he went, I find it's 99. I was like, sorry.
Yeah, on Wiki they just give you the league games.
They do.
That's a hell of a hit rate.
It is.
But I'll tell you the thing about David Cross. He used to be, I used to think, as good with his head as he was with his feet. So the goal kicks used to come over and used to glance the header on to whoever else was up front. In the early days, probably Pop Robson. Used to glance it, and I used to think, wow, most strikers used to just thump it with their head and used to go all over the place. He used to kind of glance it or nod it down. I don't know how many goals he scored with his head, but he was absolutely deadly with his head. And he used to get into really what I call like nasty positions. He used to get in between two defenders, waist height, knee coming up, and he'd be diving in. Goals where you think came out literally, it would turn an average cross into a beauty. In those days we used to just love David Cross, just deadly. I think we caught him at the kind of back end of his career. So he had his peak, a good peak at West Ham, but I'd have to look it up, but 27, 28, 26, I don't know. But obviously he played, I think, was it West Bromwich Albion he came from?
Yeah, I think he came from West Brom. I think it was his first game he played for us was against West Brom or something like that. Definitely his first Upton Park game, I think. But an incredible bloke.
He used to get loads of different goals as well. Volleys, headers, tap-ins, you name it, scrambles. So Cross is in there.
Cross is in. Who's Cross going to partner?
Well, again, just quite a few to choose from, but just for the era and what he did for the club, Tony Cottee, TC.
Yeah, TC.
Because I remember him coming through, and if there was an Olympic tournament for the 5-yard dash, Tony Cottee would win it. Because I remember those balls being played through at the edge of the penalty area and think, if Tony Cottee was in line with the defender, that's basically a goal. It's basically a goal. Because over 5 yards, no one would catch him. And he just and he was a breath of fresh air, because I'd see Pop Robson used to be almost bald, and as a kid I used to think he must have been about 62 as a player. And when I look back at the stats, he's probably just 29, losing his hair a bit. But, and David Cross used to look sort of kind of a grizzled player. I used to think he must be about 50 as a kid. But Tony Cottee came through 17 or something,
straight
off the production line, started scoring goals. And I was gutted when he left, actually. I used to think he would be at West Ham forever, and never really seen many West Ham players leave in my own mind. But he went to Everton, but did well at Everton, did as well at Everton as he did at West Ham, but never won anything.
No.
And I always used to think he could have done that at West Ham and been a super legend. But it was still, for those years he was around, his strike rate was great.
And obviously, he was one of the ones. Obviously, he came back. The boomerang effect came back and did well on the second spell for us as well. There he is.
Was that in there? Yeah,
that was in there. Yeah, there he is.
Wow. Program.
And again, that pony top with that blue tick. I think of Tony Cottee in that one. It's really funny.
Motors on the front.
So funny with Dagenham Motors, but top bloke, and he's really into his stats. Is old Tony, a real stats man. And when we interviewed him, he's telling us something like that's 85. That boys of '86 team. There's something like 12 or so records, club records. They
Yeah.
still hold, like most away wins, most home wins, and stuff like that. It's incredible.
Well, I used to be a big fan of Paul Goddard. He was a really good striker, and I think at the beginning of that season he got injured.
He did,
and that allowed McAvenny to come in from midfield to basically playing. I think he played like a number 10
originally,
basically a striker. And that changed the whole season, believe it or not.
It's crazy, wasn't
hard to believe, but
that's it, man. That's it, Paul. That's the 11.
That's it.
That's the 11.
Enjoyable. So I've really enjoyed your shows. Actually,
thank you.
Thank
you very much. It's great. An hour and 10 has flown by about blinking, Paul.
It's a long time.
It's all fun and games. We love it. So thank you. I really appreciate your time more than anything. And obviously appreciate your support for the channel, Paul. It's always nice.
Yeah.
And obviously thank you to everyone for watching as well. If you're watching or you've been listening on the podcast or on YouTube, whatever, give it a like, give it a share, give it a subscribe. And until next time, for me and Paul, take care, everyone. Stay safe. That's very important at the moment. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.